So you're deep in your data science studies, right? You're learning how to be a scientist. But what if I told you that to actually make it in the real world, you need to be an investor? Yeah. Today, we're going to tear down that wall between the classroom and the corner office. Whoa, hold on a second. That's a pretty bold claim. I mean, people spend years mastering these complex algorithms, getting their code perfect, climbing to the top of Kaggle leaderboards. Are you really trying to tell me that all of that doesn't actually prepare you for what a business wants? Oh, it absolutely prepares you with the tools, no question. But it's the mindset that's all wrong. See, here's the core of it. In school, you're a scientist. You get rewarded for pure discovery, for making the most elegant, complex model. But in business, you're an investor. Every single hour you work, every line of code you write, that's an investment. And it has to generate a return. And this right here, this table is basically our roadmap for making that mental shift. We're going to break down four huge differences: what you focus on, your process, your final output, and the big one, your ultimate goal. So let's just dive right into the first one. All right, first step, focus. Think about it. In school, you're taught to look inward at the data's internal structure, right? The relationships between all the different variables. But in business, your focus has to be completely external. It's all about the metrics that actually drive the company forward. So on campus, your whole world is correlation heat maps and histograms. And don't get me wrong, those are absolutely essential skills to have. But the minute you walk into an office, the conversation totally changes. Suddenly, it's all about customer retention, user funnels, unit economics, the stuff that actually makes the business money. Okay, I gotta jump in. Aren't correlation heat maps, like, fundamental? You can't just ignore the basic structure of the data you're working with. That sounds kind of reckless, to be honest. You know what? You are 100% right. They are fundamental. But here's the key. In business, they're step one, not the final product. The final report, the thing you show your boss, always has to connect back to a business outcome. And that's exactly why understanding something like a business funnel is so critical. Because when you look at this, you're not just analyzing abstract numbers anymore, you're mapping an actual customer's journey. And when you can pinpoint exactly where and why people are dropping off, well, that has a direct, measurable financial impact. A simple heat map just can't give you that. All right, so that's the what. Now let's talk about what your final product even looks like. In school, it's pretty much always a Jupyter notebook, right? But in the professional world, you're delivering something totally different, a decision-ready dashboard or a simple memo. Hang on, what's so wrong with a notebook? It shows all your work, your whole methodology, it's totally transparent. Isn't that a good thing? And that's a perfectly logical question, but it misses the single most important factor, your audience. Look, you're not presenting to your professor anymore. You're presenting to the CEO, the head of product, a marketing manager. Their goal: quick, clear insights so they can make a decision. And their time, it's almost zero. They need the answer, not the equation. That's why a clean dashboard or a one-page memo is the tool for making an impact, not a 20-page notebook full of code. Okay, so we've covered what you focus on and what you deliver. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty, the data itself. This is our third big shift, all about your process. And it's a huge one, moving from this academic idea of perfection to the messy reality of production. Think about it. In class, you almost always get this perfectly clean static CSV file. It's just ready to go. Well, in the real world, assuming your data is clean is probably the fastest way to get fired. Seriously, professionals don't just use data. They build entire automated systems just to make sure it isn't broken. Really? That sounds like a lot of overkill. I mean, come on. You download a file, you run your script, you're done. How bad can one little CSV file possibly be? But see, that's the thing. In a business, data is never a single static file. It's not a calm lake. It's a raging river, with new data constantly flowing in from dozens of different sources. So these automated data quality tests, they're your guardrails. They're what stops the entire company from making a $1 million decision based on broken data. Okay, and that brings us to our final and honestly the most important point on our roadmap, the goal. This is it. This is where the mindset of the scientist and the investor really, truly split apart. In your machine learning class, what's the definition of success? It's all about metrics like RMSE or F1 score, right? Your goal is to chase the highest possible accuracy, to squeeze every last 1/10% of performance out of that model. But in business, there is only one metric that matters at the end of the day: ROI, return on investment. Did your work make money or did it save money? That's it. Okay, but hang on. That just feels wrong. Isn't a more accurate model always better? I mean, it's just common sense that a 99% accurate model is more valuable than a 95% one. How could that not be true? More accuracy equals more value, period. And that right there, that is the classic academic assumption. But in the real world, it's often completely wrong. It all comes down to the cost of time. Let's put it this way. What if getting that extra 4% of accuracy, going from 95% to 99%, took your team an extra 6 months? In business, speed is a form of value. A good enough answer that you can act on in 2 weeks is almost always infinitely more valuable than a perfect answer you get 6 months too late. Okay, fine, but what does that actually look like in real-world numbers? Well, it looks like this. It's not abstract. You can measure it. That good enough 95% model, the one that got deployed in just a couple of weeks, it captured an extra $2.1 million in revenue, all while the quote-unquote perfect model was still being built. That is the power of action over accuracy. That is ROI. So let's wrap this all up. When you really boil it down, this journey from the classroom to the corner office, it's a total transformation. You have to stop being just a student of data techniques and start becoming a business strategist who just happens to use data as your weapon of choice. The whole thing comes down to this one core shift in your thinking. You have to move from a search for technical perfection to a relentless drive for business impact. Your job is no longer to find the absolute best statistical answer. It's to find the most valuable answer and find it fast so the business can actually use it to win. So, the final takeaway here isn't a statement, it's a question you have to ask yourself. As you're working on your next project, stop and think. Are you building a portfolio of cool, technically impressive models, or are you building a portfolio of real, measurable business impact? Because honestly, the answer to that one question is going to define your entire career.